Hi, everybody. Welcome back to When Harry Met Board Games. I am Harry. And before we go any further, please make sure to hit the like button down below and subscribe to our channel if you're interested in more amazing board gaming content. Today, we're going to be talking about the top 10 essential board games that everyone should know. Now, lots of people on YouTube have already made similar lists, and I decided to throw my name in the hat. Now, some of these games are not games that other people might think when they think of essential games, but this is my personal opinion, and feel free to comment down below if you disagree with me or if you appreciate my ideas. Now, when I'm making this list, I'm not necessarily thinking about my top 10 favorite games of all time. Lots of these games are not in my top 10. Some of them are not even in my top 50 games of all time. What I'm thinking about is games that will appeal to a wide group of different people from different backgrounds, people with different worldviews, people of different ages and such. Sometimes we only think about games that might appeal to people who are just like us, but I think that our collections should represent the fact that there is lots of diversity among people, among human beings. So first of all, we want games that appeal to hardcore gamers like we might be. We want games that appeal to casual gamers. And we want games that appeal to non-gamers who have the potential of one day becoming gamers. So that's the type of list that's represented here today. So let's go on and let's move on with the top 10. Starting off with number 10, and that is Seven Wonders. And the reason why I picked Seven Wonders is because Seven Wonders, I feel like, has a theme that appeals to lots of people. This theme of an ancient civilization, civilizations of antiquity. It's something that lots of people read books upon. It's something that lots of people study in school. People watch movies and TV shows about this topic. So I feel like this is a topic that can appeal to people. Also, from a gameplay perspective, this game introduces the mechanism of card draft, where you have a hand of cards and you choose one and you pass the hand to the person to your left, and the person to your right passes their hand of cards to you, and you repeat the process until everybody has their hand of cards. That is a very important mechanism within the gaming hobby, and Seven Wonders is a great introduction to that mechanism. Lots of people would say this is probably not a good game to appeal to a vast amount of people, because it is a little bit of a learning curve because of how much iconography and symbols are on the cards. But I think once people get past that, the mechanisms in and of themselves are very simple and streamlined. And that is my number 10 most essential game, Seven Wonders. Now let's move on to number 9. My number 9 is Mission Red Planet. Mission Red Planet is a steampunk / science fiction type of game. This game is about colonizing Mars and using your astronauts to land on different Mars and on different territories in Mars, different colonies in Mars, and have the majority in those different areas. First of all, this is a theme that I feel like appeals to many people. Lots of people appreciate science fiction, or even an alternative history, steampunk type of science fiction. And also from a gameplay perspective, this introduces the mechanism of area control or area majority, which again in the gaming world is a very important mechanism. And this game teaches it in a very simple way. Now, furthermore, this game has different missions, secret missions that don't get revealed to the end of the game. So even the way the scoring looks like it's going, it looks like one person might be the lead, that might not be the case, because somebody might have secret missions that they've accomplished that grant them more points than what you get, and that pulls them in the lead. Again, people like this concept of surprise and intrigue. The idea that we don't know necessarily who won adds to the excitement of the game from round to round to round. Sometimes as games go on, people tend to lose interest because they feel like they're falling behind and they have no chance of catching up. But with the secret missions in this game, you don't know if you've lost until the very end. Also, we have in this game this role selection mechanism where you're all choosing a different role each turn, and that's how you get your actions. That's how you activate your options for that turn. And I feel like it's a neat tension between what role do I play and when do I play it, because you're basically going to get to play every role just one time. Maybe a few of them you might get to play twice, and that's it. So again, from a gameplay perspective, I think it introduces lots of concepts that are very helpful for people to learn board games. Now let's move on to my number 8 game of all time. Not of all time, I'm sorry, my number 8 essential board game of all time that everyone should own, Cosmic Encounter. This game, many people would probably not think of this as an essential board game, but I think it is. Again, we have the science fiction theme, which appeals to many people. Science fiction sells. When you look at the movie theaters, when you look at the TV shows, science fiction always sells. And this game is about intergalactic, battle of politics, where people are warring against each other. They're negotiating against each other. And again, that translates into very fun mechanisms that contribute to the social interaction around the table. People are going to be discussing, people are going to be plotting, people are going to be betraying. There's going to be a lot of discussion going on. People are going to be bribing each other, begging each other, complaining about each other. And on top of it all, from a gameplay perspective, this game adds lots of interesting mechanisms that are very important in the gaming world. First of all, we have variable player powers. The idea that every player is a different player to start the game with, and because they're a different player, they have different special abilities that nobody around the table has, different ways of bending and tweaking and breaking the rules even, that give them an advantage that no one else on that table has. And these are things that you have to factor in your decisions that you make throughout the game. Also, this game has a crafty and intriguing hand management gameplay, where you are doing combat from round to round, or maybe negotiating from round to round, but it involves playing of specific numbered cards, and knowing when to play the cards and when not to play the cards is part of the tension of the decisions that you're making throughout the game. Hand management, again, a very, very important mechanism within the gaming hobby. So that is my number 8 essential game, Cosmic Encounter. Now we move on to my number 7 essential game, and it would be the number 1 for most people, and that's Ticket to Ride. Ticket to Ride is a train-themed game where you are building, network of routes across the map. For example, in the base game, we have a map of North America, but the expansions add Europe, and they add Africa, and they add Asia, and there's France and the UK even. There's tons and tons of expansions for this game. But the idea of building routes across the country, but the mechanisms are so simple, and again, very, very important. The mechanisms are just drafting cards that are available on the table and getting a collection of cards of the same color that allow you to build those routes. It has a rummy-like gameplay. Lots of people are familiar with rummy. So again, it becomes an easy teaching experience, and at the same time, it has some appeal because some people, not all, really like the idea of trains and when the whole railroad system was starting off in 1800s. That history doesn't really come across in the gameplay, but again, it's an appealing theme combined with some mechanisms that are very, very important for the hobby. That's my number 7 essential game, Ticket to Ride. Now we move on to my number 6 essential game, and that is Coliseum. Why do I choose Coliseum? First of all, again, a neat theme. It's the idea of, Roman Coliseums. Now, a lot of people might look at this game and they think more about gladiators and combat and fighting and animals and so on and so forth. But it's really about putting shows, right? The ancient Coliseums, they were about putting performances that the masses would want to attend and watch. And that's exactly what this game is about. It's just about putting your own show. It's almost like running your own theater. You might as well call it, theater, the game, instead of Coliseum. And again, that's something that's cool and it's fascinating and can appeal to lots of people. Now, from a gameplay perspective, the reason this game is so important is because this game has concepts that people are already very familiar with from other games, and they implement them in such a way that, first of all, is not too much of a learning curve, and at the same time, helps and builds the foundation for learning other games with similar mechanisms. First of all, this game has a very nice auction phase in each round, and lots of people that are new to games or casual gamers are very familiar with auction mechanisms from games like Monopoly, and they have this in this game. Also, this game has a trading phase in each round where players are allowed to engage in trade discussion. Again, for lots of casual gamers, they think of Monopoly and the trading that takes place. They think of games like Settlers of Catan or Catan and the trading that takes place in those games. And people love the trading mechanism. They love that ability to negotiate with other people and exchange goods or exchange cards or exchange currency or exchange money. And just the idea of maybe I am besting my, partner in trade and they don't know it. I'm getting the better end of the deal while the other person's thinking the same exact thing. Just the idea of trying to craft the perfect trade offer that sounds both appealing to the person you're offering to it, but at the same time, it's something that you can live with because it doesn't affect or hurt your game too much, or at least it gives you a fighting chance, let's say, to make a comeback in a game that you might be falling behind. Again, this is a theme that I think will appeal to people and mechanisms that are not only important in the gaming hobby, but are also familiar to many people who are outside of the hobby. That is my number 6 essential game, Coliseum. Now we move on to the top 5. My number 5 essential game of all time is Formula D. Now, the reason why I chose Formula D is because the racing theme and the Formula One racing theme or the NASCAR racing theme, these are themes that appeal to lots of people. There are a lot of people that don't even follow car racing religiously, but they have a little curiosity about it, and whenever they see it as they're channel surfing on the TV, they can't help but watch it for a few minutes. This is a theme that appeals to lots of people, or at least piques the curiosity of many people. And again, from a gaming perspective, racing is so streamlined. It's such an intuitive concept. Anybody can understand the purpose of a race. It's to be the first player to cross the threshold, the first player to cross the finish line. That's exactly what this game is about. That's what the end game winning condition is. Be the first player to cross the finish line. And again, it has very simple mechanisms. You're only rolling dice. That is all you're doing. The only thing that makes this different than your average, basic mass market dice rolling game is that you have a choice from round to round as to which dice you get to roll, or which die you get to roll. There's about 5 or 6 different dice representing the different gears of the car. And you're shifting your gear up and down as you go through different parts of the racetrack. Some where you require more speed, some where you require more tact and carefulness. And you're making those decisions from round to round and trying to make it to the race without, having suffered too much damage in your vehicle so that you can survive to the end of the race. And that's all you're doing in this game. But again, it's a simple mechanism that adds one little extra decision, the decision of which die will I choose from round to round to roll for my movement this turn. And again, there's something about dice rolling games for as much as people complain about their bad luck, as much as people brag about their good luck, sometimes you just want to play a dice rolling game. And that is my number 5, Formula D. Now let's move on to my number 4 essential game. And this game is heavy because I own tons for it, and that is Marvel Legendary. Marvel Legendary is my number 4 game for essential games that everyone should own. And why is that? Well, first of all, we have the theme here, Marvel superheroes. Anybody who follows the Marvel Cinematic Universe knows that that franchise is making tons of money, and it has brought over so many people to the comic book superhero fandom, right? Because there are so many people that have never opened up a comic book, that have never watched a superhero cartoon, but who have been exposed to superheroes, in particular the Marvel superheroes, through the movies of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. That's why right now Iron Man is probably the most popular superhero in the world, because the Marvel Cinematic Universe has put him on that pedestal and has highlighted and emphasized his role in that universe. So this is a Marvel-themed game that a lot of people would appreciate. It's a deck building game. So from a gameplay perspective, it's a deck building game. And that's a very important genre within the gaming hobby, where you start with a small deck of weak cards, and as the game progresses, you acquire better cards, stronger cards. You're making your deck stronger, sometimes getting rid of the weaker cards and trying to accomplish an objective. But in this game, it's kind of thematic, abstracted to an extent, but you're defeating you're defeating villains, and you're defeating evil masterminds, and you're fighting against their schemes that are their plots or their plans to get a winning to win the game. Because again, the game can win the game against you. It's almost the players versus the game. Now, there is a way of playing this competitively, but this game could also play cooperatively, which again is very helpful when playing with casual or non-gamers. That's my number 4 essential game, Marvel Legendary. Now we move on to my number 3, and that is Pandemic. Pandemic is a game about specialists defeating viruses. There's an epidemic of viruses spreading around the world, around the globe. And you and your team of specialists are going from city to city, country to country, trying to stop this, trying to cure the diseases. This game, from a theme perspective, again, very fascinating, the idea of saving the world. And from a gameplay perspective, first of all, it is a cooperative game, the most popular cooperative game. So I think it's a great introduction to the cooperative genre. Lots of people, when they think of board games, they just think about competitive play, player versus players, right? Defeating your opponents and lording it over them. Here, it's a team game experience. It's a team building exercise every time you play this game. It introduces lots of cool mechanisms, a threat track that you have to keep focus on. You don't want the game to get too out of hand. It has a timer of sorts, so you just can't play indefinitely. You have to stop the game from defeating you at a certain time. This game is a great game, again, for casual gamers, for non-gamers. You throw in some of the expansions, and I think it's a great experience for even many hardcore gamers. That's my number 3 essential game, Pandemic. Now, my number 2 essential game is The Pursuit of Happiness. This is the game of life for gamers, they say. First of all, it's about people living their lives. Everybody loves the idea of being able to live their lives. And that's all you're doing. You're making decisions as to how you want to live your life, the career you're going to have, the person you're going to marry, the hobbies and activities you're going to partake in. And again, from a gameplay perspective, it introduces worker placement, which is a very important mechanism within the gaming hobby. My number 2 game of essential board games, The Pursuit of Happiness. Now we move on to my number 1 essential board game that everyone should own, and that is Deception: Murder in Hong Kong. The reason why I choose this game is because, first of all, it's a whodunit Clue style board game. Lots of people are familiar with Clue. Most people, gamers, non-gamers, are familiar with the game of Clue and have played the game of Clue sometime in their lives. And many people like the game of Clue and gravitate towards games like the game of Clue. So again, this is a very familiar concept from a thematic perspective for lots of non-gamers and casual gamers that you might want to game with. Also, from a gameplay perspective, it introduces lots of social deduction mechanisms that are very prevalent within the gaming hobby. You know, there's a lot of question asking and accusing, and there's clue giving. We have a moderator here who gives clues turn by turn and round by round, indicating them without speaking on a tile of a group of tiles that have different words on them, and they place little tokens on them representing that these are the clues for that round as to who the murderer is and what weapons were used. Again, this marries 2 important things: a theme that people are familiar with and already gravitate towards, and gameplay mechanisms that are important and fundamental in the development of new gamers. This is my number 1 essential board game that everyone should own, Deception, subtitled Murder in Hong Kong. Well, those are my top 10 essential board games that everyone should own. Thank you so much for watching the video. Before you leave, please make sure to hit the like button and subscribe if you're interested in more amazing board game content. Once again, this is Harry from When Harry Met Board Games. Take care. Bye-bye.